Devin Haney versus Kambosos. Is it official? No. I think people need to stop making the assumption that this fight is going to happen. It's likely to happen. I think there's definitely a good chance of it happening, but people need to slow down with the assumptions. I've heard before, like, oh, it's just all it is about just, signing signatures, taking Lomachenko's name out and, putting Devin Haney's name in there, and that's it. That's not the case. You're talking about two completely different deals. The deal they had before had to do with ESPN, their top rank, whatever it is over there. That's what that deal had to do with. I could understand if Devin Haney fought for the same network and Devin Haney fought for the same promoter or something like that. Then it might be a type of situation where everybody had agreed on everything. So yeah, it's just Top Rank kind of talking to their fighter Devin Haney, you know, saying, yeah, this is what this is. Everything's cool. All right, cool. Put your signature on it and you go. But that's not the case. We're talking about a completely different party and a completely different network. So it has to do with the deal that DAZN has on the table, the amount of money that DAZN's going to put on the table when it comes to the fight. It has to do with that, and then also people are forgetting all about the Ryan Garcia angle. Another option for him was a multi-fight deal where he fought a Joe Schmo, and after fighting that Joe Schmo, the next fight after that was against Ryan Garcia, and a multi-fight deal with DAZN. No one's talking about that, but that's still something that was on the table for him. And people saying that they sent something to Devin Haney. I guess a contract or whatever it is. Well, you don't know what they sent to Devin Haney. They could have sent Devin Haney some BS where it's like, hey, you get paid $500,000 or something like that. Or something you don't know. Or something to where they know that Devin Haney's not going to sign that contract. Kind of like the contracts were sent to Gary Russell Jr. That type of thing. It could be one of those things. You don't know. So we can't just make that assumption. We can't make the assumption that Devin Haney is just going to agree to whatever they send to him. If it's a BS deal, he's going to say, hell no, I'm not going to do that. So we got to see, like, whatever was sent to him, will he agree to those terms that are, that are on those papers? It doesn't mean that it's the same deal like they had for Lomachenko. It doesn't mean it's the same financial numbers like they had with the Lomachenko, because that's different. You're talking about a much larger platform. You're talking about, a platforms are able to promote a whole lot better, and they have a real pay-per-view setup where they could make money in the UK. Now, I mean, not in the UK, but in Australia and also in the United States, because especially with everything that's going on, that would have been huge. So those numbers are probably might look different. They might look completely different. And also, he might really want to go the Ryan Garcia route instead. He can definitely beat whoever he'd be fighting, in June or whatever it is, and he'd have a great chance of beating Ryan Garcia. And then after that, he could go ahead and fight a Devin Haney or somebody else, or obviously they've also ordered, the WBA has ordered him, I guess, a fight between him and Gervonta Tank Davis. So that's another option too. If he's looking at the numbers and he's like, I'm not feeling these numbers, another option would be to fight whoever lower tier fighter at home, and then after doing that, fighting Gervonta Tank Davis on pay-per-view, on Showtime pay-per-view in the United States, and making a substantial amount of money. Even if he's getting 30%, 35%, whatever it is, he'd make substantially more money in that fight than he would in all of these fights. He'd make a good amount of money, especially also depending on what what his part is and what he gets as it pertains to the UK, to Australia as well. They could say you can keep all that money and all that Australian money, pay-per-views, and we'll take obviously this portion over here, and we'll give you this portion of the gates. People that would be involved in that fight would be big. So, that could be also something he can do. So everybody's just making this assumption that because Lomachenko has kind of completely is out of the loop because he had to go back to his country, that all of a sudden that means that, yeah, this is definitely what's going on. He's definitely fighting Devin Haney. That's not necessarily the case. I hope it's the case. I hope Devin Haney gets the fight. I think out of everybody, he should get the fight. I think then obviously if that particular fight happens, then there's no longer this question of who's undisputed. Is this guy undisputed? Is he not undisputed? Well, there will be one real champion at 135 pounds, hands down. Then obviously if he loses, he can always rematch Devin Haney again in Australia. Since that's what they were supposed to do. So that is the fight that should happen. Definitely, that is the fight that should happen. But people shouldn't just assume that that is what's going to happen. People shouldn't make that assumption. Like they said, they've been going back and forth, I guess, like from yesterday. They've been going back and forth, which means obviously, yeah, it's not the same deal as that one over there. If it was the same deal, then they would have signed it. So I don't know what they sent over there. I don't know if it's a term sheet. I don't know what it is. If they're just 100% now focused on making a deal between those two parties. It could be that. It could be something that could be dragged. What is it? March, April, May, June. Yeah, it could be something that could end up dragging on for a couple more weeks. It could drag on for a couple more weeks, and all of a sudden it could be, he didn't agree to the terms. Devin Haney, he ran, he didn't agree to the terms. He didn't really want it. So we're gonna do this interim fight, then we're gonna do this later on. It could be that, let's do this interim fight and wait for Lomachenko and see in the next couple of months if he's out of there, so then we can, if there's a resolution over there, so that he can come and then we can do that bout. It could be that too. It could be that too, because Devin ain't going anywhere. He could have that whatever bout. Then after that, well, I guess he'd have to fight Tank because of what the WBA said. And that's if Tank wants to do it. Tank might be like, F you, you're not forcing me to do anything. The only reason he's fighting, I guess, to consolidate his belt with whatever that kid's name is because that was a fight he was going to do anyway. This fight, whether there was belts in the line or not, his next fight against Rolly was the fight that he was going to do, period. And they're probably going to end up doing a Cruz fight after that. Could be a possibility, or Martin or something like that after this as well. They could have that kind of planned out too. So, he might not have to worry about fighting Devin Haney next either. It all depends. But just making the assumption that, it's a done deal, it's definitely going to happen next. No, we need to get off all of that. If anything that's taught us, especially when it comes, if we've learned anything, especially when it comes to the saga, this whole situation between Loma and Kambosos and Lomachenko and what's his name, and Devin Haney, man, don't believe anything. We hear something different every single day. One second is like, they've been working with each other. It looks like the fight's done and it's gonna happen. Literally the next day, but Kambosos is ducking. He's afraid. He doesn't want to do the fight. And the next day, looks like everything is cool and they're gonna make this fight happen. And the next one is, he's ducking. He's fighting Lomachenko next. Then the next day is like, it looks like they're cool. It's too much. It's way too much. So all I would say is, hopefully he gets it. He deserves it, but we won't know. We won't know until both camps come out saying that, yes, the contracts are signed, it's official, it's on this date, let's go. Once that happens, then it's like, all right, cool, let's go. You know what I mean? June 5th. And like I said, hopefully it does happen, because I believe out of everybody, he deserves the fight. He does deserve that fight. And the fans deserve that fight, so we can just end all this talk about who's undisputed or not. But we'll see what happens. But right now, nobody knows, regardless of what they say. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.